The reason why we agreed to do this film is to help other kids and to help educate other people about autism, and hopefully it would help other people and other kids to understand.
My name is Clinton Mesa. I am 16 years old and I live in Ordet, Guam. Like most teenagers on Guam, I spend time in a variety of settings. I am a student at George Washington High School, where I am in my junior year. I'm involved with my church in the San Juan Bautista Parish. I participate in community activities. This is the Guam Coastal Cleanup. Here I am showing my support for the closure of the Ordet dump, which is supposed to be closed years ago. I go shopping and hang out at the mall. And like most guys my age, I love to play video games. One thing that's different about me is that I have been diagnosed as having a disability.
When Clinton was a baby, he seemed to be a normal baby. He sat and walked and run like any typical child. I think the only concern that I had as a mother when he was a baby was with his toilet training. And that seemed to start a little bit late. He fed himself like any normal baby or any normal kid would do. But one thing that we noticed, Clinton didn't like any kind of loud noises. Yeah. He would always be putting his finger in his ear. And we noticed that when he was young, he was always flapping. He would take his hand and he was always doing that. He was always, even when he walks now, he's always going to some kind of motion with his hands, running it across the, touching things, and or spinning around with his hands. It was a lot of hand movements. I was already in first grade. His teacher had a concern that Clinton was not always focused on the class lessons. He seemed to be doing something. She noticed that he was always going around the classroom, picking up little bits of clay. He'll find a pipe cleaner, and while she's teaching a lesson, she noticed that his hand was inside his desk and he seems to be busy doing something. And when she checks with him, he's making a little tiny figure, whatever clay, that he had picked up or something he made out of the pipe cleaner. And actually, she was the one who suggested that maybe we should buy Clinton some clay. And we decided to do that. And when we bought him a box of clay and we gave it to him, he started making this wonderful figures, just out of his own imagination, and kind of like startle all of us, and just proceeded from there.
No, even at elementary, he wasn't really, the aide or the teachers during lunch break or recess, that he always be, he won't be playing with other kids. He'll sit on the side, take out his book and read, but he won't really socialize with the other kids, and play with them.
There was some concerns with Clinton getting along with some of the other kids. The teachers were saying some of the other students would sometimes pick on him because somehow they noticed that he was different. As a parent, we don't want to think our child's different. We like to think of our child as being a normal kid. But I already noticed certain things about Clinton. Most of the time, Clinton seemed to be a happy kid. But as he went into middle school, that's when we started to see the frustration. When we go through his bag, checking for work that he had, I noticed there was a lot of pencils in there that was broken. And I think what we found out later, that he was breaking all this pencil in his frustration because he couldn't deal with certain things that were going on with students or other kids would make him mad. Instead of venting out his frustration or his anger at them, he broke all these pencils. His 8th grade teachers had some concerns about Clinton. And some of those concerns was that he was not focusing in the class, he was not paying attention, he was talking to himself, he was growling at other kids, and they just didn't seem typical of an 8th grader. And so they decided to refer him to the counselor. In Clinton's records, documents, official documents, it says that he has autism/Asperger's syndrome.
Jennifer Cruz, a consultant on autism, shares some insights on this condition.
Autism is a neurological disorder that with a child or adult presents with intense behaviors, specifically in differences in language processing skills and the ability to socialize within social contexts. He is a child presenting on the high spectrum of autism, and usually with these children, they get diagnosed at a later part of life because they're so in tune with school. They love school, and when you get into secondary level, the social context equally becomes important as the academic context, and that's where these issues started becoming really apparent.
When Clinton was going through all this testing in middle school, Chris really didn't take it very well. He didn't think there was anything wrong with Clinton. He used to think there must be something wrong with the teachers. It couldn't be my son. There couldn't be anything wrong with my son. But once we discovered what his diagnosis was, I think you took it pretty well. You said that you were glad.
I just said, well, what took him so long to that he had a problem, that he wasn't doing that on purpose.
Now that we are learning what exactly is a characteristic of an autistic child, we kind of look back and reflect, and we saw a lot of those things that Clinton exhibited since he was very young. We just didn't know. Some of his teachers, I think, were really outstanding. I remember his science teacher last year, Miss Chaco. She would try to work with us and in ways, to help Clinton. We would communicate through the email or through the phone or through the assignment notebook, and she would go out of her way to try to work with Clinton and try to help Clinton.
I guess the hardest thing that I had to deal with in working with Clinton was his very short attention span, especially when dealing with lectures. I did give him copies of the notes presented in class, but in getting him to pay attention or getting him to sit there, actually just sit there and pay attention to someone talking was very difficult for me. And so it wasn't until the last couple of months of the school year that his mother shared with me a tip that she learned, that he have a highlighter out and be highlighting key words and vocabulary in the notes as we went along. And that way it kept him on his toes and it kept him thinking about what was going on.
My former teacher, Mr. Gumbar, shares some of his experiences and relates how he dealt with my behavior in a classroom setting.
Behavior in my class, and I'm sure in other classes, included things such as the spontaneous slamming of a book onto a desk. In some cases, getting up from the desk. I had a specific incident where a student sitting behind him accidentally kicked the back of his desk, and he felt that. And it must have been done a couple times, and I'm sure not intentionally, but it resulted in him getting up in the middle of class, picking up his desk to about maybe a good 2 to 3 feet off the ground and slamming it down. And then heavy breathing and standing there. And you can see that frustration level in him. So those are things that need to be addressed right off the bat. And again, the only way I feel that you can address it is simply to to talk with him and try to remind him that these are things that are inappropriate. I do feel that Clinton benefits greatly from being mainstreamed into the regular classroom.
In today's educational settings, students like me receive their educational services in the least restrictive environment. Participating in general education is the right thing for me. Attending classes with my peers in general education settings allows me to learn what everyone else is expected to.
He was a wonderful student to have in the classroom. Definitely a very challenging student, and definitely very challenging in that some of the things that I incorporated in my classroom to in terms of modifying his curriculum were things that helped me to understand many of my other students as well.
The general fear is basically not knowing what to do, although they do know. It's just to get over that initial fear.
Things that impressed me was that his writing ability was often a lot better than my other students. He was able to express himself in complete sentences and use words that were at grade level and not words that were below grade level. But although his penmanship was a little bit, a little bit difficult to read, but his sentence structure and his paragraph construction were excellent.
You may not have noticed, but in my science class, the guy sitting next to me was my class peer supporter. He helped me keep on track with what we were supposed to do. I have peer supporters in my math and computer classes too. Sometimes they kind of bug me, but they do help me with my work and deal with other kids in class. My teachers and parents are also visited by teacher consultants who give them ideas on how to help me learn. I also get speech therapy.
Clinton is receiving speech and language services because he was determined to be lacking in the pragmatic areas of language. Pragmatic language is social language. It's the ability to be flexible with language and be a more effective communicator in different speaking situations, with different listeners, in different environments. Encourage him to initiate conversation and have him be in a small group and have him be like the leader every once in a while so that others can ask him information and he can supply the information, and then he can also, maybe if he doesn't know something, ask somebody in his group.
My parents and teachers are looking at what could be some of my options for future employment. With the help of DOE's transition services and AHRD, I was hired during the summer of my sophomore year to work at an elementary school for 3 weeks.
His job responsibilities, he picked up very, very fast, especially when I'm awarding something to him. Inventorying of our reading mastery, setting up library with the library tech, answering phones for me while I'm by myself and forwarding the calls to me. At first, he was very, very hesitant. He was not sure of himself and how he's going to respond. So what it is, I wrote a dialogue out, print it out, place it near the phone, and all he has to do is read. He'll respond, "One moment, please," and place the person on hold. He did that excellent.
I had asked Clinton to help me arrange my office because I was just moving in. He had the strong sense of wanting to organize my office, and Clinton did such a great job. I was very, very pleased because I thought it was because of me that he wanted to stay and continue working in my office, but honestly, he had this great need to organize my mess.
So if you see me in school, in the community, at the mall, or wherever, keep in mind that although I may be different in some ways, I am also a lot like everyone else.
He's different, but everyone's different in their own way. So I don't think that, they should treat him any different just because he has certain disadvantages. Just be open-minded with him and try to accept him for who he is.
This is me, Clinton Mesa.
Poliochi, legendary crime boss. I'm not a crime boss. I'm just a small businessman. Oh yeah, what kind of business? Crime? Sanitation engineering. I think that means like running the garbage collection for the city. You're right. So why are you in this race, Polly? It's for my mama. She wants me to win the race. She wants her son to be recognized by the world for being the best. What about your business? That sanitation engineer going to engineer itself? Mama's helping me out. She's ruthless. I mean, she's good at business. Well, not ciao, Polly.